My name is Alice. I'm an independent journalist based in Amman, Jordan. I usually work in the Middle East, but this year I did a project in Germany focused on religion among resettled refugees. I was interested in seeing how refugees interact with pre-existing religious communities once they get to Europe, specifically to Germany. So I wanted to know, when a Syrian Sunni Muslim gets to Berlin or Cologne, does he go to mosque? What kind of mosque does he go to? Does he interact with the pre-existing religious community? How does this influx of Syrians affect the pre-existing population of largely Turks? Or, do people go to church? Do they change religion? Do they convert? And most of all, I wanted to understand how refugees themselves look at religion and its role in their integration or lack of integration. I met a Sunni Muslim Syrian woman in her early 20s from the Hama area, and she was telling me that she was really surprised because when she walked down the Arab streets in Berlin, in Sonnenallee, she would wear a cross necklace. I asked her why, and she said, well, I wear this because if I don't, all these men will come up to me and start saying, why are you dressed like this? She wears a tank top, she wears a lot of eyeliner, and they'll say, you need to cover up, you need to preserve our honor. And she would say, these aren't even Syrian men. they're not even men that I know, but they, I'm here in Germany, but people still see me as, part of this society within a society, and they're imposing things on me. A week later, I met a Kurdish Syrian woman from Kamishli, and she was telling me how she struggled for a year to take off her hijab because she felt so alienated on public transportation in Germany. People would look at her like she was a potential extremist when really, she has a master's in engineering. She was pregnant, she was going to be a mom, and she said it was the first time in her life that she felt backwards and looked down on. And so for her, it was also a matter of trying to integrate, trying to fit in, but finding that society was imposing expectations on her as a refugee and as a Muslim woman and telling her what to do. I think a more important question than, are there too many Muslims coming? Or like, what do the Muslims want? As if they're all the same, as if a Syrian Muslim is the same as a Turkish Muslim, or a Sunni and Shia have no difference. Instead of asking these questions, I think something we need to be asking is, when people come to our countries and they're people who have had all agency stripped away from them, they're not able to choose where they want to live, what they want to do with their lives. They don't have the same basic freedoms that we do because they've been forcibly displaced by war. Are we giving them at least the agency to speak for themselves and to represent themselves the way they want to be represented? Are we listening to them? One Syrian told me, and he was a friend who I met, who was from Raqqa and now lives in Cologne, and he was telling me, I have my faith, but it's very personal for me. And I don't like going to religious institutions because as soon as you go into a church or a mosque, they ask you, what's your name and are you a refugee? And if you say yes, they start saying, oh, how can we help you? And he said, but you start to feel targeted and you feel like a project, you feel like a number and not a person. And he said to me, I want to go to mosques the same way that I go to a cafe. I just want to go and be anonymous. I don't want anyone to ask me who I am or to single me out. I just want to be a normal person. He also told me that that's how he hoped Syrians could be written about as well in the media. He said, I wish the world could look at us and not see us, as Syrians as refugees or Syrians as Muslims, with all of the negative or scary connotations affixed to those words. He said, I wish they could just see us, as Syrians, Syrians as people. Something really compelling that I heard from one German pastor I interviewed, and he's a pastor who's doing church asylum, which means his church is offering shelter to a lot of rejected asylum seekers and protecting them from the police so that they can get a second chance to appeal their cases instead of being deported. And he was saying to me, he said, the problem with the media and refugees and the problem with the rhetoric we hear is that people are so extreme and they say refugees are either all good or all bad. They're either terrorists or they're saints. He said, that's not, doesn't match with reality. Refugees aren't all good or all bad. They're just people, and people are good and bad. They're mixed. They're people like you and me, and in order to formulate coherent policy that really addresses the problems of integration and helps us to show kindness to other humans without compromising our own security and And without reaching the limits of our society, I think it's important that we take a clear look and that we have deeply reported, nuanced pictures of the different ways that people who come to the West are struggling with integration, and what that means and what we can do about it.